Welcome to the Agent Upgrade Podcast with your hosts Jasmine Alan and Alan Corey, where we learn the strategies of top producing real estate agents so you have the tools to upgrade your own real estate career.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. We've got Abdul. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone here, Abdul?
Excellent. Alan, Jasmine, first I want to start by saying thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. My name is Abdul Muid, licensed real estate broker plus founder and CEO of Ivey North. Ivey North is a real estate firm. We're based in Brooklyn, and we service most of Brooklyn and some of Manhattan. And we're a firm of right now 16 agents, and that's including myself.
That's awesome, Abdul. We met when you were an agent. Were you always wanting to be was the goal always to open up your brokerage, or is this something that sort of came in later?
It was. And it's interesting because people would tell me after I launched Ivey North, they would tell me, it's like, I always knew you were going to do it. And I was like, how did you know? It's like, well, you were saying it. I was telling people, I was telling people, I would say maybe at least 10 years ago, that, my ultimate goal is to launch my own company. And I learned early on, that was just a goal of mine. I always wanted to, set a goal, reach that goal, set another goal, reach that goal, and so that's just been the person I am. It's just always how can I be better? How can I do things better? So I think it all came from that. I know it all came from that.
So how did you get into real estate to begin with? What was it that kind of led you onto this path?
Excellent. So my very first apartment, I worked with a real estate agent, and who was mostly, she was personable, and she knew the neighborhood intimately. We would go out on appointments, and the one thing that I really liked about her is that I would tell her what I wanted to see, and then she showed me all of that. But in between appointments, we never talked real estate. It was really just small. It was just really talk that connected us. And I appreciated that, so she was very personable. She knew the neighborhood intimately. And she showed me quite a few apartments. And the apartment that I selected, I applied for it. And then at the lease signing, I remember presenting her with 2 checks, one for the landlord and then one for her. And then, when I handed her the check, I'll never forget, at that moment, handing her the check, something said, I can do this. And that's what it was. It was me looking for my own, my first apartment. And at that first moment, apartment, realizing.
So first apartment to rent. And
to rent.
You used a real estate agent.
And I really used a real estate agent.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. And where were you working at the time? What sort of industry?
Yeah. So I was in the healthcare industry. Okay. I worked at a company called Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Yep. And
it was instrumental because I learned most of my customer service skills there. Mm-hmm. I wasn't selling anything, but it was just customer service based. And so that platform, that foundation really helped me, with real estate.
So how long ago was that? When were you apartment hunting with this agent?
That was 2003.
Is that agent still in business today?
No. No. But we maintained contact up until about 10 years ago. She reached out to me and she sent me business.
Oh, good.
And and because we stayed in touch, I let her know that I was a real estate agent, and we stayed in touch for a couple of years, but our careers went in different directions. And then next thing I know, she was no longer in the industry. And so,
So 2003, this happened. When did you get your real estate license?
In 2000 and that year. It was later on that year.
Well,
it was later on that year. Yeah. So I immediately got into it because I knew I knew Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I wasn't passionate about it. It was something that it was a job. It was something I didn't love it, but I got what I needed from it. And, but I knew my target, I was focused on other things, and that was just something to get me to the next step.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you quit your job and immediately become a real estate agent, or is this sort of one foot in the corporate world and one foot in the
Great question, Alan. So what I did was I signed up, I took the real estate course. So what I did was I kept my job and I took the real estate course on the weekend. So Saturday and Sunday, I went to the Brooklyn Real Estate Education Center, Avenue P. I'll never forget. And that was good too. It was a quality school, but I did it Saturday and Sunday, 7 hours. I was there from like 10 a.m. to like 4 in the afternoon, Saturday and Sunday, for a month straight. My weekends it was all devoted towards qualifying for the real estate school, my exam. So I did that, passed it, and then I took the state exam. And then when I knew I passed, I gave my job 2 weeks notice.
Nice.
And so I wanted to, yeah, I was all in. I wanted to do it. I was very methodical. I was intentional about how I wanted it to play out. And they always say how you start is how you finish. And I realized, it was a smooth transition and it really worked. And I feel like that was all a part of the eventual success. It's like how I finished that, how I said, okay, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to take the course, and then I'm going to give a 2-week notice. I'm going to give the company courtesy and allow them to kind of like give them advance notice and fill my position. And if I were to call them up today and say, hey, I want to come back, I'm sure they would allow me back.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
I think it's interesting that you come from a customer service background, because don't you feel that when you're in real estate, like you are managing it's like customer service all day long, every day, right? Because you're managing people's emotions, you're dealing with their money, their security, like emotions are super high. Do you feel like just having like a really good foundation and just like customer service kind of helped you navigate some of the crazy roller coaster it goes through when you're buying a home?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can say if I didn't have that customer service background, I don't know if I would have lasted in real estate, simply because there were a lot of, in the beginning, there were a lot of similarities in the transactions that I worked on that reminded me when I was at Blue Cross and Blue Shield, because my role at Blue Cross and Blue Shield was that if you had an issue with your medical bills, you would call me. So I was the first person. I was a representation of the company, of the brand, and I took it very seriously, and I learned that if you help people out, you put the person first, even if you can't resolve the situation right then and there, they'll respect you and they'll want to, like you tell them they'll call you back, they'll expect that call back, and they respect you because you're a man of your word and you do what you say you're going to do. So those same qualities I took right into real estate. I listened.
I could speak to your customer service on a personal note. Abdul has been my real estate agent on a few transactions, and I know as a real estate agent myself, having a client that's also a real estate agent is difficult. It's a challenging, because everyone thinks they know more than knows what's best. So you're always professional, and I when I'm being crazy and whatever, but cool and collective was Abdul. Yeah,
Alan, no, you were great to work with, because what I respect about Alan is that he came with knowledge also. So we were collaborating, and I knew that if I brought him data, he would, and it was right there, then he would digest it, and we would either pivot or he would make a decision. And so it's all about working for that common cause. And Alan, you were great. So that's why I like working with people with real estate experience, simply because we know what it takes. Yeah.
And we had a celebrity encounter. I think it's fair to mention, since she did a press release after the closing. But we had a client ended up buying my property that Abdul brokered, which was Christina Ricci, an actress as Wednesday in the Addams Family. So that's always fun.
You guys.
That was a lot of fun. Meeting her, getting to know her, really just down to earth, calm, and just like, just showed up like she wasn't an actress. Just showed up like she's just, another person. Looking for a house. And it was a lot of fun.
I feel like those are New York City stories. Like when you get to a certain price point, when you're selling multi-million-dollar homes, like it's a lot of celebrities or which I would imagine. Is that difficult for you, Abdul, in New York City, or does that happen often, or does it just become normal after a while?
It does become normal after a while. Like for instance, Jeffrey Wright, who's an actor, he lives in Fort Greene, and he started out as a client, and now I would consider him someone that I would say he's a friend. Like I'll bump into him, I can call him, and like I ask for advice. But like it's if you manage the expectations and you just like you're just yourself through the transaction and you're being yourself, people love it and they respect it. Because the one thing about celebrities is that always, everyone's always like going above and beyond, and which is okay. But, I would just show up as myself. And I knew that in real estate, it's all about managing the expectations, but also providing information, clearly communicating. And so that's what I focus on. And whether you're Jeffrey Wright, Christina Ricci, Alan Corey, it's really about what do you need? How are we going to do it? So that's what I focus on.
I love that you threw my name in there with those celebrities. So, you're welcome back as a guest at any time. Yeah.
I love it. So I guess I'm kind of curious. So, you've been doing this, since 2003. So what is like, was there a moment where you feel like you went through a shift that kind of moved you from, being just like, hey, I'm just starting out in real estate, and now all of a sudden you're a top agent working, multi-million-dollar deals, and just like, what would you accredit? Like, what is that thing that happened that kind of upgraded you to becoming a top producer that you are today? Is there one thing that you can think of?
That's a great question. And thanks for asking, because it was about 2013 where I felt my personal life and my career, like I just felt like I had arrived. And that was the 10-year mark. And they talk, people talk about 10,000 hours. They talk about that 10,000 hours, which at that time I was not aware of that whole phenomenon. Like the 10,000 hours, you're considered an expert. For me, that like the 10 years that made like, about 10,000 hours, I probably have put more time into it, up until that point. But that 10-year mark, just personally and professionally, I just felt like I could do what I was doing. I had the confidence, I had the track record, I had the sales, and I just had the confidence in myself. I had made a lot of mistakes. I didn't give up.
Stubbed your toe enough times.
I stubbed my toe enough times. I closed on a lot of deals. I missed out on quite a few. And it was just an accumulation of like time, knowledge, and just people starting to really know, okay, you think of real estate, you think of my name. So I became synonymous in a certain crowd. I was synonymous with real estate. It was like, oh, call Abdul. Everything real estate was like, call Abdul, and so I felt that. Yeah, I felt that. And I was just like, it was that year, 2013. Yeah.
No, yeah. I like the 10,000 an hour thing. And I think you hit the point on reputation. Because a lot of real estate agents, they'll always be posting on Facebook about their music career, or, hey, I'm doing this on the side. I'm an artist. And then they wonder why their real estate career is not taking off. And it's like, I've talked to some of these guys. I'm like, well, to me, real estate's not your passion, and it's not your interest. And I would come to you if I wanted to start a band based on your social media profiles. But
Right.
I'm not going to come to you. But like when Abdul is real estate, like I assume this was happened to me when you say you've been known as a real, like they're not maybe just calling you for apartment advice. Hey, Abdul, you have a plumber? Abdul, you have an electrician? Is that right? Is that sort of what you mean by that?
Yeah, it was everything real estate, and it was like, oh, I'm a friend of Alan's, or I'm a friend of Jeanette. It was clients who would refer me to other people for either, business. Hey, I need to sell my building, or I need my apartment rented, or hey, do you have a contractor? It was just like, my entire life and then was only it was like real estate and serving, and like, how can I help? And, it's been an amazing ride, because I've learned so much about who I am. I've learned a lot about people. And I've never, from the time I gave my 2-week notice, I've never done anything else outside of real estate to bring in income.
That's awesome.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
And yeah. I never even thought about doing anything else,
Yeah.
It reminded me, that reminds me of one of the first times I met with Alan, and I gave him like one of my standard questions of like, hey, wait, are you, when you retire, like 10 years from now, whatever, like, do you see yourself at the beach, or, are you going to be in the mountains? What are you going to be doing? And he's like, I'm going to be selling real estate. I was like, oh, okay.
Cool. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it is. It's like, no, I'm going to be doing right. So that's how I feel. I mean, it's, you have to be all in, all hands on deck. And, the people that have done well over the years in the industry, that's, they put their all into it. As I meet people that are looking to join the firm, I'm always telling people, like, listen, you have to be fully committed to this. You can do it part-time. But I don't think it's going to last. A true real estate agent, successful agent, gives their all and, into the business.
So what would you give that, what advice would you give to that new agent in New York City? Bright-eyed, bushy tail. I want to be Abdul in 10 years. What would be your go-to advice for that person?
Man, Alan, great question. To work hard, you have to work. You have to put your entire life into the business. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to bet on yourself. You have to invest in yourself. And learn as much as you can. Spend a lot of time around seasoned agents that are putting their all into the business. And don't ever quit. Don't give up. This is not an easy business, but if you love it and you put your all into it, it has to, you will grow. I will tell you that you will grow your business. Like, there's no way around. Like, if you put your all into it, you will get exactly what you put into it.
So actionable, like, what is put your all? Is it reading the trade magazines? Is it networking? Is it taking online courses? Is it, the certain books? Is there like an actionable advice? Like one, like, hey, Abdul, I want to come work at your brokerage. What's sort of the 2 or 3 things you would say, do this week or this first 3 months kind of thing?
So I did it all. And when I first started, I had a routine of mailers. So I would send out, I
remember getting your mailers. They were pretty.
Yeah.
Was this when you were at Corcoran? Corcoran?
Yep.
Is this when you were?
I was
I remember getting those in the mail. That's how I found you. I was like, I'm going to this open house. It's right down the street. and I left. I was like, wow, that guy was really nicely dressed. I'm like, that guy seems very professional. I would hire him to be. You're very personable at the open house, and that sort of it drew me in.
So that was all. Yeah, that was a part of like who I wanted the world to see, or how I wanted the world to see me as a serious professional, personable person that cared about not only myself, but your business and your home. So getting back to the things that I did, like, so I would do mailers every 90 days. And I did it consistently. Whether I received a call back or an email from someone, I really wanted people to know that, hey, this is what I do. And I also wanted to give you information, free information, what recently sold, what's on the market. Like, so I would do that consistently, and that gained me traction. That was traction. I would host open houses for senior agents. So we had, when I joined Corcoran, there was a top broker. The top broker in our office at the time was a guy by the name of Jerry Minsky. You may know him, Alan. Yeah. And Jerry, I would always ask Jerry to host open houses with him. But in my mind, I was telling myself, I want to sell townhouses, not knowing that what you say and what you think actually becomes reality. And so, I was saying, I want to sell townhouses. Like, I want to sell townhouses like this guy. And so that led me to introducing myself. Hey, can I host open houses? And he would say yes. And so we would do them together. And when we have a break in the action, I would pick his brain. That's smart. And one of the things he told me, I'll never forget, he said, you always have to have product. You have to, always have inventory. And Jerry always had a lot of inventory. And so that idea, that notion, he planted that seed. And so, hosting open houses with senior agents, I would always ask questions. I would seek advice from the people that were doing a good book of business. I would show up to the office, whether I had appointments or whether I had work to do. I would go into the office because I needed to be around that energy. I would look around to see what other people were doing. And I just stayed around the business. I was just around. Like, I would come into the office. I would respond to emails. If people sent out an email, hey, I have open house. Does someone want to host an open house? I was always asking questions. I would ask my manager, what do I need to do? And this was early on. What do I need to do to be one of the top agents in the office? And meaning like GCI, gross commissions. And so she would tell me, and I was like, okay. So I knew where I was, where I started. I knew where I needed to be. You know, so I had a number, I had a figure in my head, and every year I would ask her that. And I started getting closer and closer till I started just like, I was in the top 5 routinely. Yeah. And so it was really, and also another thing too, I would walk the streets. Because I grew up in Fort Greene, Clinton Hill. And so I would just walk the streets and people would see me. A lot of people were like, when I first got into the industry, they were like, hey, what do you do? Because they saw that I would wear shirt, tie, as opposed to like jeans and a t-shirt. They saw that I changed my appearance. I was like, yeah, I'm selling real estate now. And I would hand them my card. Awesome. Yeah. I would take days, I would spend days, and I would walk the streets with the intention of like just getting closer to the blocks, but meeting people. And I would bump into people that would receive my mailer. It's like, oh, I know you. I received your mailer. Yeah. So that's awesome. It was just, I did a lot of things.
Yeah. So you hit on a bunch of notes there. I just want to recap sort of what I heard and I agree with is first, you were saying how you provided data, and I think agents or value. When you provide data, you're providing value. It's not just you're overcoming that image of a door opener. Real estate agents, just someone who opens the door for you, and it's like no, like a real estate agent, provides value and data and tells you why it's worth this and what's sold in the neighborhood. And for someone who is interested in New York City real estate, but I wasn't a realtor myself, I would collect those mailers that you would send me because it would tell me what everything sold for. And this was before the MLS and Zillow and everything. And so I had all these, I just your mailings packed, in my office because I wanted to know what $1 million would buy me or what $200,000 would buy me kind of thing. Right. I also hear goals. Your theme that I'm hearing is you're a go-getter on your goals. And it's like, great, I accomplished this. What else can I accomplish? And let's take two more steps, and just pushing those goalposts over and over again. And what gets you to those goals is asking a lot of questions. Seems like you're hanging around the office, talking to people who have accomplished your goals and trying to pick their brain. I think, that's how I every time I go to open house, I talk to that agent. I just want to just, extract as much knowledge that they have for my own interest. But it makes me a better agent, but it provides me more value to my clients. And your professionalism and reputation, you keep coming back to that. And that's, you're remarkable, and you look great, and you're consistent. What you look like on your postcards is what you look like in real life, and you're not portraying a fake image of yourself. And I think that adds to your reputation. So those are all solid points that I think any agent who's trying to take it, to the next level and upgrade their business could really learn a lot from those points there.
One quick thing that I want to add to this is that I feel like I feel like what a lot of agents will walk into real estate thinking is like, hey, we're done working at an office. Now we've got all this freedom to do whatever we want with our time, kind of a mentality, right? And I can work when I want and take time off. But I feel that the agents that are really successful are the agents that kind of treat this like an 8 to 5 job. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to work for 3 hours here, show some houses, take the rest of the week off, right? It's just when you show up every single day and you're in the grind and you keep doing it, you treat it like a job, not just like a, hey, I'm kind of going to sell some real estate on the side kind of thing, right?
Right. Absolutely. That's one of the things about myself is that I always show up as Abdul, I sell real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And like in my head, like I'm always that person that, it's like no matter where I go, if I'm in the supermarket, if I'm driving, if I'm in Uber, and I'm always talking to Uber drivers because they're like, oh, what do you do? Because of the way I'm dressed. And it's never, I describe it as like all my days are just, they roll right into the other, and it's like, because I show up as what I do, that's, because I love it so much. It's like, I don't know what else I would do. So, it's really just the love of it, and just putting it a part of making it a part of your everyday life. I noticed that some agents are like, okay, I'm going to take off my real estate hat, and now I'm just going to I'm going to, in this circle, I'm this person. This circle over here, I'm this person. No, I'm the same person in every circle. And I want everybody to work with me and know that, because I'm proud of what I do.
So I have a question, and because you are such a connector amongst those different circles and communities, and in the political climate that we're in, have you had any sort of, brush or any sort of, I would assume you have some sort of roadblocks being a Black professional with a Muslim name. Have you run into that? I know New York City is very liberal and diverse, but I'm sure there's listeners here that would really want to hear what maybe sort of obstacles you've overcome or advice along that might be not have the privileges of others.
Wow, that's an interesting question, because I'm going to share a story I never shared before. Someone that I met, someone that I worked with early on in my career, said to me, don't you want to use another name?
Ooh.
Don't you want to become like some name, it not
Johnny,
something,
right.
Abdul Muid, but like, don't you want to become something else? And then at that moment, I was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, there could be that perception of like, because this was a couple years after 9/11.
Yeah.
And, so it hit me, and I was like, no, I'm going to be who I am. But I also realized that, okay, there could be some there could be some challenges. But at that moment, and even before that, I always felt that I am the determining factor of my success. Like, I don't rely on the world to determine my level of success.
Mhm.
And so, I've held that with me. And even like, even to this day, like even like throughout all, the political climate, I've maintained that I'm going to be successful, that I'm going to achieve levels that people don't even believe that I can. And it's I see it as a challenge. I see it as a way to be a beacon of light for people that may be afraid, because of maybe because of their skin tone, or maybe because of their name. Like, so I want to be that person that people can look at and say, well, he's doing it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what I believe is that the energy that I put out there, that's what's going to come back to me. And that anything that doesn't come back in a way that, like, any negative energy that comes back in my way to me, then I see it as a challenge. I see it as like, it's like, okay, how can I be better? How can I just rise above that? And so everybody faces challenges, everyone. So that's the one thing in life, is that I don't care if you're Elon Musk or Abdul Muid, there's always challenges you're going to face. And so what I see is I take climate and I say, okay, how can I be better or stronger, so that, anything that's supposed to come to me, I get, so I stand up to the challenges.
I would imagine those challenges that come your way, whether they're racial, involved or not, it's difficult, but it's way more rewarding when you come out the other side and succeeding. And it's like, you're not the type of person to say, I told you so. And, in your face, but your actions show it. And
Right.
you got the listing anyway, or sold it for higher than someone else said they could sell it for. And that you just step up, and it just makes your star shine brighter, kind of thing.
And you're so right, Alan, because the one thing that I know is that if you never quit and you keep putting in the work, eventually, like, you will be rewarded. Like, I can't control the business that like technically, like, I can put the effort in. I'm always going to give the effort. I can't control whether or not I'm going to get every listing. I can control the effort that I give, and I can control what I think, how I react to situations that come up. And so I'm always in control. I want to always be in control of things that come up. I don't want anybody to be in control of how I think about them or how I feel on a daily basis. So I'm always mindful of that.
Yeah.
I like that, because I think a lot of agents, they lose a listing, or a client picks someone else to help them buy, and you can only control so much, and you can focus on what you can't control and just feel depressed. Or you can be like, well, I can't control that, but I can control calling 10 more people, or sending out more flyers, or go and get a new suit and looking like Abdul. Looking sharp.
That's what we're going to take away from this. We all get to go sharper.
But to fast track your career, so you went from Corcoran, and then you went to Compass, and now you head a brokerage with 16 agents, and sort of on I don't know if this is purposeful, but you've got 16 agents, and I went to the website at Ivey North, and agents are every color under the sun, and that is so refreshing to see, because I want more diversity in real estate, and you're living it, and you're pushing it, and apparently recruiting it as well, and didn't know if that was purposeful, or it's just that's just
That's
a natural effect.
No, it's intentional. I mean, I came up in an industry, and I saw the world as like inclusive. Like, I want everybody to be represented. I want everybody to be heard. And, that's what I stand for. That's what I stood for when I was at Corcoran and Compass. And it's only right that at Ivey North, we do the same thing, and so a lot of, what I get to do also at Ivey North is inspire. is to encourage. And so ultimately, I want people to go to our website. I want people to see what we're doing and be inspired by it. So that's one of the biggest things that I like about founding and launching a brokerage, is that you can inspire people. I know what it is to be in this industry. I know what it is to start at the bottom and want to get to a place where you're not sure if you can get there, and you get there, and so I know how, so yeah.
I like that. I one of the things that I was curious about is along the lines of, like, what types of personal habits do you feel that you have that really contribute to your success? Like, one of the things that I read one of Dave Asprey's books, The Bulletproof Guy, and he said, like, every year I invest 10% of my income into my health. Like, that's his thing, right? And so I'm curious, like, what are some of your habits that you feel, because you have, in order to perform at the level that you are, you can't be, not getting enough sleep and be feeling sluggish, and like, you have to be, you're at the top of your game. So tell me, what are some of the things that you do on a daily basis? What are some of your personal habits that make you, like, super sharp and clear and rah, rah, rah?
Wow. Thanks for asking, Jasmine. That's a great question. So meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I say it 3 times because it has done so much for my focus and clarity. I started meditating in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and I meditate every single day. I get up every day between 5 and 5:30, and then for half an hour, 45 minutes, I meditate.
That's awesome.
And yeah, what meditation does is just really, it just quiets everything down.
Mm-hmm.
It allows the thoughts or the vision or the plan that I see, and what we're going to accomplish. It allows the ideas to just flow in. And it also allows me to really just not take everything so seriously, to
Mm-hmm.
really be in that space, to be in that moment of just, like, breathing and just, like, just focusing on that moment. And it's done so much. It's done so much for me that, like, I always tell people, like, hey, meditation is
Mm-hmm.
really, it's done so much for me. I
And
also work out.
do you just, like, sit and meditate, or you use an app, or what's your transcendental meditation? Like, what do you do? What space
I,
do you live in?
yep. I use an app called 10% Happier.
Uh-huh. I love that
Yep.
one. That's
Yep.
awesome.
10% Happier. Sometimes I don't use it because I've gotten to that point now where I can just, if I'm in a car or wherever, I can just stop and slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I primarily practice mindfulness meditation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the reason why I choose mindfulness is because a lot of times over the years, I would allow thoughts to keep me in a box, or allow the thoughts to allow me to expand my mind or my vision and my goals. So now all I do is if the wrong thought comes in, I just let it go out. And now I have this practice of knowing that, like, okay, every thought I don't have to jump on or get emotionally attached to, or, like, if someone
Right.
said something, I don't have to, like, I don't have to react. I can just say, just let it be.
Right.
And that I didn't have in the beginning of my career. I didn't have that. So I had a lot more up and down days, a lot
Mm-hmm.
more up and down, because
Mhm.
I would internalize, and I would take things, and I would, hear things, and I would take it personally. Or if someone got a deal and I didn't get it, like, you're like, you're constantly comparing yourself, and, like, I don't do those things anymore.
But isn't that kind of
You
part of the trick? Part of the trick is just kind of being able to let it go faster. Like, the sooner you let go of that thing that's bothering you, say next, right? That deal
Right,
that started falling apart, or the client when someone else, you just let it go next. And then you can, like,
right,
refocus your energy on, like, the next positive thing, as opposed to dwelling on, like, why did it fall apart, or what did I do wrong, or all of that, right?
exactly,
No.
exactly. And that's
Mhm.
basically what meditation has helped me with.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it definitely has helped me with that. Exercise.
Mhm.
I have to work out. So my daily routine is generally wake up 5:30, meditate, then go work out. So I have a workout buddy. agent who's at Compass, who used to work at Corcoran, Terrence Harding, really, really nice guy. We get some really good workouts in. He meditates also, but we get some really good workouts in, and we push each other, we motivate each other. But yeah, like meditating, I also journal. So journaling is a habit that I picked up in 2020, and it's really helped kind of put ideas, when I can put ideas on paper, you know, I plan my days, you know, and so journaling just allows me, you know, once I meditate, it allows me to get in that clear space of like, okay, what's next? What's important? What's getting me closer to the goal? What's going to take the firm closer to our goal? How are we going to serve our clients better? So I'm constantly journaling and writing things down. You know?
I want to really quickly touch about your workout partner, Terrence. I think this is a struggle for I think for a lot of agents, is that, you know, everyone in your field is your competition. You know, like they're in some ways, but it is very important to have that real estate agent friend. I think that could be your accountability partner, who's maybe going through the same, you know, terrible market or having the same highs as you, and you can talk to real estate with them. But is there any advice or things you've learned about having like a close friend in the industry who's also a real estate agent, but technically your competition, because you are going after the same listings, you know, and you might have the same circle of friends and sphere of influence, and maybe you know, what agent are they going to pick? Is it going to be Terrence or Abdul? Have you ever come across issues along that?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's a very competitive industry. It is. And it's funny, Alan, because when I meet people for the first time, I feel energy right away. And so, especially people in our industry, and I can tell when people are sizing me up, or like, yeah, you get that energy. It's like, they look at you and it's like, you know, they're determining how good you are, or, you know, if they know of you, it's like, okay, like he's like, you know, I can just feel that. But the one thing I'll say is that it's good. I think it's a good practice. Some of my closest friends are in the industry. Yeah. And it's only because we have interest outside of the industry, outside of what we do. Like, for instance, Terrence Harding, before he got into real estate, he was a rapper, and he was a part of the group Notorious B.I.G. He rapped with a group called Junior Mafia that was a part of Notorious B.I.G.'s group. Yeah. So some of his friends, some of the members in that group, I knew, but I didn't know Terrence. And so I feel like there was a connection before we met, you know, and we just happened to connect years later. But I think, yeah, it's important to have people in the industry that you trust and that you can bounce ideas off of, or you can share things that you wouldn't share with other people, and not be afraid of it. I think that there's enough business. Like my mindset is abundance. Like I adapt an abundance mindset, and what that means is that like there's enough for everyone, you know. And so like if I'm befriending someone, it's like if I didn't get that listing, that just means the next one is coming to me, right? You know, or the next development. You know, that's how I look at it. And I didn't always have that mindset, but you know, just growing, you know, through personal development, you start to learn these things, and a lot of things, you know, I don't always adapt, but there's things that I keep, and it helps me. But yeah, I would definitely say having someone close in the industry, you know, that you feel like could help you, absolutely befriend them, because you could learn from them how they operate on listing pitches. What are some of their secrets? You know, some of my best friendships have been formed by working out. Matthew Scott, who's an agent at the firm, we met because we started working out together. When I was at Compass, you know, he saw something in me, and then he invited me to work out. And I was like, I wonder if he thinks that I'm just not going to show up. But he didn't know me, but I was going to show up. And I saw that. I was like, wow, this guy, if he applies the same mentality that he's doing, working out, to his business, it'll be awesome. And he really is. He's one of the top agents. I consider him one of the top agents, and I learned that because of his work ethic, you know. And I learned a lot about people when we work out together.
Well, I would imagine it's a very competitive workout. Like, who's going to lift the most? Who's going to run the fastest?
It is. It is.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. It keeps you going.
Well, at least I compete quietly. Like,
yeah, all right.
You know, like I make sure I'm doing the same amount of reps, like quietly, or exceeding it.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. So, Abdul, tell us about, like, what is the most creative deal that you have ever done? Like something that was falling apart and barely hanging on by a shoestring, and you pull it all back together. Tell us some war story, something fun.
And you know what? I really don't have one, because the deals either work or they don't. Like it's like they close or they don't. You know, most of my deals close. Like, I have a high close rate, but I mean, early on, I've had deals that fell apart where people have signed non-contingent, all cash transactions, and they've lost money. But like, I know, you kind of know early on if a deal is going to close. And, you know, it's, I don't have any of those like fun stories, but what I can say is that, like, they either my deals, they either close or they don't, you know. But the one thing, if a deal falls apart, I've always found a buyer for it, another buyer.
Yeah. One thing that's sort of interesting about New York City real estate, at least when I lived in New York, is that there's no MLS system. And also that really the negotiations happen between attorneys. Both sides, the buyer and the seller, are required to have attorneys representing them. And sort of once you get something under contract, the attorneys start negotiating the inspection report, sometimes the closing date, the earnest money, things like that. Is that still how things are operating in New York City, or did I capture that correctly?
Well, so there is, in New York City, yes, there is an MLS.
Now there is.
There's multiple. Yeah, now there's multiple MLSs. There's like an MLS in Long Island. There's multiple in Brooklyn.
Multiple. So meaning, if you have a house for sale, does it show up on all the sites, or just maybe on the? You have to check 4 or 5 different sites to see what's for sale.
Well, it's so yeah. So what I learned is that MLS has different platforms. Like, for instance, Ivey North, we use what's called My MLS. And there's also One Key, which is another MLS platform. There's like multiple MLS platforms. And so I'm sorry, I lost track.
So not every, so you are using one MLS, but another brokerage might use another MLS and another brokerage. So a buyer, and I believe Street Easy now kind of tries to combine them all. Is that right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. And
so
go ahead.
So there, Street Easy is the main website, right? That, like, if we put something out, we market, we put it on Street Easy, we put it across all the platforms. About 90% of our inquiries are going to come from Street Easy. But there are multiple platforms. Like, for instance, we use another system also called OLR, Online Residential, which once we put our listings there, it feeds into every brokerage firm in the city, into their database. Just not the MLS. So the one thing I learned is that when you're operating with the big firms, they are members of REBNY, which kind of operates almost like MLS, but it's a newer version of MLS. The smaller firms, more independent firms, those are the ones that either just use Street Easy or one of the MLS platforms. We use Street Easy, OLR, and MLS. So we want to capture our firm. We look to capture everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would imagine, because I would imagine some confusion. Like, it's almost more important to have a real estate agent in New York City to sort of just navigate that. Is sort of how I would see things. And I don't know if do clients feel the same way? Like, where do I go? Where do I, how do I navigate this? I mean,
yeah. So the really smart buyers who don't have the time to search for themselves, they hire agents.
Mm-hmm.
And I say smart because you have to work with a broker. If you want the best properties, you want to be informed, the agent is the best way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have some buyers who feel like, okay, I can do this on my own. They'll set up alerts on Street Easy, and it's like, okay, you put a listing in, and they're reaching out to brokers by themselves, which is a smaller percentage of the market. But most buyers are working with agents in New York City.
And what's your feeling on like all the iBuyer platforms out there and people that are kind of leaning, like, I guess just what's your commentary on that?
I think it's good. I think it's our industry. I mean, there's a lot that's happened to our industry within the last 5 years, where there's so many platforms that are coming in and like providing a way to reach buyers. For me, there's no resistance. It's like if you created a service, or you're creating a service that you feel adds value to a buyer's search, and you feel like, that's what you're putting into the world, to the universe, and it works, by all means, yes, people should use it. But I also feel like brokers will always be like, you'll always need a broker, because brokers, they have all the information, they are connected to multiple people, and we add a lot of value to the transaction. So I mean, I think as technology continues to grow, like for instance, we walk around with computers in our pockets. When I came into the industry, we didn't really have smartphones, but it's inevitable. I mean, people are creating new ways of doing things. I think it's really just about creating something that's already done, but doing it in a more efficient way. And if someone can corner that, and someone can create a tool, a platform that helps all of our lives, that we can all benefit from, I like it. I'm not a broker that's going to bash or say anything against technology or like these platforms, because I think they all, if you're doing it right, they can add value. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we all want our jobs to be done in a more efficient and smoother, easier way. And I think these platforms are trying to do it. That's what they're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you don't think they're replacing the real estate agent? You think there's a spot for them, for technology and for sort of the personal touch?
Absolutely. I think the people that understand the value that agents bring, they'll always work with brokers. They'll always work with agents. I say the smart consumer, they know, they understand that to get the best property, you have to work with an agent. So
and wouldn't you say, what would be your commentary on the current like low inventory that we're kind of seeing across the country? What are your, I guess, do you have any advice, any tools or tricks that you use to help your buyers get the deal when there is so little inventory and so many multiple offers going in on every property? Do you have any advice there?
That's a great question. So the advice that I always give is, especially multiple offer situations, is writing write an introduction letter about yourself. Those letters, like for instance, we participated in the highest and best situation. We had about 25 offers on a property in early January. And the buyers that that got the property, I told them, write a letter. Because when you got 25 offers, it's like, how does the owner make a connection? Like, how do they know who you are? So I told, the buyers, write a letter, letting them know who you are, your story, make a connection. The intention of that is to get connected and make an emotional connection.
The pictures, pictures with the puppy and the baby.
The buyers lived a block away from this property. And so, their angle is like, we love the neighborhood. We've seen that building go up. We saw them build the building, and so they painted this really nice picture. And when the seller called us and said, we're going to go with these buyers, we knew why. We read every letter. And we did. And so that makes a difference. When you're submitting a highest and best, putting your best foot forward, consulting with your broker and asking the broker, how much over ask should you offer? What are, where are the numbers trending? What's the percentage of the properties that are coming on the market, and what's the percentage of the properties that are selling above ask? Just having your agent pull comps and walk you through, okay, what are the last 3 months? What are the last 3 months sales? What do they look like? Just giving your buyer more information than they need so they can make the right offer and get the property.
I love that. I think the personal touch is
Definitely
for me. Yeah. I've won deals and the agents told me, hey, we had higher offers than yours, but they liked the story,
The story,
Real estate's so personal, it's so emotional, especially to
Right.
the sellers who have memories in the home. They've raised their kids there. And, that heartstring letter could save $5,000, $10,000 sometimes,
Right.
if it's the story that seller needs to hear, kind of thing.
That's
I
right.
agree with that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Abdul, thank you very much. This has been very informative. We've learned tremendous amount of how you were able to succeed, and I think other agents are going to learn from your stories and your advice. And thank you for taking the time.
We appreciate
being
you
with
so
us.
much. Yeah,
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed myself. Great questions. I'd be happy to come back. Alan, it's great catching up with you. Jasmine, very nice meeting you. And I love what you guys are doing with your podcast. Keep it up. And I wish you all the best. Continued success. Yeah.
Well, thank you. So real quick, how can people get in touch with you or learn more about Ivey North, or, if they want to work with you as a brokerage or even as maybe a client, please tell us the best way to kind of reach out and be in touch.
Yep. So our website, it's www.iveynorth.com. My email address, it's my first name, abdul.muid@iveynorth, iveynorth.com. I treat my email like text. It's like I get right back. So it's like, that's the best way to reach me. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And I can speak to Abdul's professionalism on a personal level, at having him as my real estate agent on multiple deals. So you're in good hands with Abdul in New York City. Just want to share that. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
you.
Yep. You guys have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Agent Upgrade Podcast. If you are an agent looking for a new mortgage lender, start with Jasmine at jasmineteam.com. If you want to learn about real estate investing and working with investors, check in with Alan at thehouseofac.com. See you next time on Agent Upgrade.